This video is sponsored by the Design Mechanism, the makers of Mythras. Mythras is a registered trademark of the Design Mechanism Inc., used with permission, all rights reserved. This is when I keep my fingers firmly crossed and go, yes, yes, I think we're here. Talk, somebody.
Hello.
Hey. Okay, so can everybody
hello.
hear us? So my fan's not working at the moment, which is annoying me. Right, that's better. Welcome everyone. I hope you can hear us fine. Sorry for the delay. There was a bit of an issue with Zoom. They've updated Zoom again if anybody uses it on a regular basis, and so it's completely different to what it was. Hopefully you can hear me all right, and hopefully you can hear the part. Sorry, my fan is now on the biggest speed ever, so it's just sort of like blowing I have it on my feet to keep my feet cold. Rather than flying up so it hits the microphone, etc. Okay, so yeah, so hopefully welcome back everyone. We are back with the Odes campaign. We're back with the characters that you all have learnt to love and know. Hengist has got a new outer ring colour. If you notice, I don't know if you noticed, Longshanks. Did you notice?
I have noticed. It's gone green from red.
Yeah, because I thought Cyrus, being from the Red Robe Mages, sorcerers, seemed to be more appropriate to have red.
Yeah,
and
mine has a different style as well, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it was
well, yours was one of the oldest ones that we've ever had.
I was thinking that. I remember that today.
Yeah,
Hengist is the only original character left.
You are now.
From the
I was
first
thinking
ever episode 3 years ago.
You are now the longest running character and player in the game. You have come through thick and thin, right from early jungle warfare right the way through to present day, and Hengist has grown. As he's
a moustache.
He's finally grown the facial hair.
Yeah,
it's only taken 3 years.
I actually gave him a green outline because I thought that the emblem on your armor was green. But
his armor is green.
Yes,
his family's crest is white on.
Yeah,
the enamel
so
green.
I thought green was an appropriate colour for him. Marky Mark says hello to everyone.
Hello.
And it's good to see the Mythras stream again. That's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, so we're starting a brand new adventure, and normally what we do at the beginning is that we introduce players and characters, but I'm going to do something different this week. We're going to do that, but we're going to wait a little while before we actually do that. The first thing that we're going to do, believe it or not, is that we're going to we're going to have a look at Hazra, because don't panic, because Hazra has some experience points to sort of like use up. And when I eventually got everything ready last time, Mr. Pickles and Longshanks were around, so I brought them into the stream and we quickly did theirs. So just briefly, Mr. Pickles, what did you put Bartleby's on?
I have focused a lot on willpower, as well as increasing my folk magic and exhort.
Cool. Hengist, what did you use yours on?
Hengist has been hard at practice with his second combat style, which he's using more and more now, which is his longsword two-handed.
Yeah.
So he did a lot of that, and he also spent a little time with his pet bard. I say pet, a friendly bard that he knows, telling him the stories of killing and slaying the I can't think what the tree golem things on the island, and so he's built a little bit more of a reputation.
And that was your passion of being a famed warrior, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
So by encouraging bars to sing about you, you're hoping that your actual reputation as a famed warrior actually gets.
But he only says true events.
Yes. No,
he doesn't make events up. They may get exaggerated in the telling.
I was going to say.
But that's bard license.
What
Hengist gives the true event.
What about exaggeration? How does that?
That's up to the bard. One of the stories Hengist heard was when he fought off 30 bandits in the city centre of Lindowe. He actually only fought off like 5.
That is true. Now tell me, do we have a bard's name?
We haven't yet. No.
Name for the bard. I will put it in my session notes.
Can I do Felix? Because that was the name of the D&D bard we played when we did the one-off D&D session ages ago.
Felix, you can.
Very good.
That's
a bit of a link in there.
You can. He can be called Felix. I'll start fleshing him out. So we're going to come straight to you, Medivac the Healing Mover, with Hazra. I think you've got 10 rolls.
I do, yes. And sorry to maybe drag this out a little bit, but I've chosen multiple.
No, that's fine.
Things.
So just for Captain and also everybody else watching the stream, you don't get experience points in this game. You get experience rolls. It's roughly about 2 per session with bonus or subtractions, whether or not campaigns or plot lines go well or not. Characters then can use those skill points, skill rolls anywhere they want. They can use it multiple times on one skill if they wish, but basically what they have to do is roll a percentile dice, add on their intelligence, because obviously if you're more intelligent you're going to learn quicker, and they're always looking for their current skill level or higher. If they get that, then they actually add 1d4 plus 1 onto their roll. If they don't get it, they just add 1% onto their roll. Hazra, do you have any fumbles that you've taken?
I do. The most amazing fumble ever was a perception fumble.
Oh, nice.
So let's go from 91 to 92 now.
Excellent. Just for anybody who's listening, if Hazra gets any skills over 100, and that applies to everyone. If a score is over 100, then what happens? The chance of fumbling is normally 99 or 100. If the skill's over 100, you still fumble on a 100 roll. But the other advantage of it is that if it's over 100, it gets taken off the defense test of the person who is opposing the roll. So say, for example, a combat person has their combat skill as 150, and I am a measly little bandit coming around with 60% combat, then my combat skill will be taken down to 10 while fighting that person. So actually you can get it that you are so good at something that when you attack somebody else, they literally cannot hit you. Of course, a roll of 01 to 05 always hits, no matter what. Okay, so you still have that option. Okay, then go for it, Hazra. What are you rolling?
Right. I'm going to do my combat skill. I'm going to do it twice, and it's 101 at the moment.
Ooh.
I know. So this is to hopefully go for more. No, so I have to do it by 1.
That's 102.
102. So we're going to do exactly the same thing again. Oh, still, so it's now 103.
103, yes.
My next one is my willpower, which is a lowly 27. After the last adventure, he's concerned that he's mentally he's starting to learn about things, so he wants,
Okay.
So, yeah, that's gone up. And then we have
a 1d4 plus 1.
1d4. I should have stacked these up already. Oh, a 4.
Nice.
So that's gone from 27 to 31.
Very good.
And again, so that is
This
going to be
31 or above. Yep, nice.
Yeah, again, and that's going up by 2. So that's going up to 33.
33, yeah.
So my next one is 2 points into my endurance. My endurance at the moment is at 84.
Really good, because that is rolled against fatigue tests.
That's, yeah.
Yeah.
So I failed that one, so that's going up to 85.
85 is good.
And again.
One more.
Oh, no, so that's
86.
Going to be 86.
4 more
Stealth.
left, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so stealth is at 73 at the moment, so I'm going to do 2 on that as well. So that's going up to 74.
74.
And again, there we go. We like that. And we like that as well. So that's going up to 78.
Nice. 2 more left.
What he's been doing, he's been going to the Brotherhood, and he's trying to get a little bit of information. So he wants to try to improve his law nature.
Yeah,
which
nice.
is at 36 at the moment, 32 at the moment, sorry.
32.
Couldn't read my handwriting.
Oh,
so
it's better than 32 up now. Oh, that's
37.
Obviously where the direction you're going to go in.
Yes. And literacy trail signs, which is something he uses for his tracking.
I like that concept, the idea that your brotherhood, the guild that you belong to, have various signs, isn't it? So if you find 3 stones, one on top of the other, you actually know what that means. I think that's a wonderful concept.
So it's 29 at the moment. Oh, come on. So it's now 30. There we go.
It's now 30.
Harsh.
But yes. I think that probably bears witness that you're slowly getting used to things, and you haven't spent, over the last few adventures, you haven't spent a lot of time you've been sort of like messing about in people's gardens a few times, but not actually going
That's
out.
not proven.
Out
his garden hasn't been the same since.
Okay then, so we're going to come round to character descriptions and players descriptions in a second, but I just want you to do it in a certain way. It's not complicated or anything like that. I want you, when we get round to doing it, to sort of like share with each other what Cyrus would know about you. Okay, and Cyrus will share with you what you know about him. So you, Bartleby, you might know a lot more about Hazra than what he's actually sharing with a new member of the party. And so it gives you an opportunity to sort of like make a fresh start with new people coming into the group. I just want to sort of like put a little bit of background in before you actually do it. So things have changed a lot since the last adventure, the Dark Tower incident. Gulliver appears to have stepped away from public life, and you can only assume that he is deep within the order, doing his business, maybe completing tasks for his promotion, still maybe probably wrestling with the events and the revelations of the Dark Tower. And life in Lindowe, the capital city of Odess, has returned to normal, or as normal as life can be within Lindowe. Hazra's food and fowl business is going well. Okay, Basil's clientele has been seen to double when news goes round that the town has a new batch of food being delivered to the tavern. Basil is often seen to joke about making Hazra a partner of the hairy hobgoblin, but this is usually said in humour and accompanied with a hearty slap on the back. Bartleby continues to work for the church, and his reputation as the saviour of the poor continues to progress. Many of the lower class population see him as a redeemer, and there are rumours that he will lead them to equality and political power. Bartleby maintains a solid perspective on the situation, as he maintains on all situations, and keeps his thoughts to himself in the church meetings, where several rather snide remarks have been voiced. And Hengist continues to rise socially within the upper classes, almost diametrically opposed to Bartleby, although their friendship stays strong. And, as if to echo this, there are rumours that Hengist is starting a school for the less fortunate, not, you understand, the reading and writing type, since Hengist does not possess those skills, but more that of weaponry and honour and armour and fighting. Probably a new knight school where maybe even he can start to establish his own house within Lindowe, making it 4 noble houses. Yes, everything appears to be going well, but like all good things, it has to come to an end. And what lies for you all in the next series of adventures is as of yet unknown. However, you have introduced yourself or met a new member of the group. Whether or not this has been through casually talking in the Hairy Hobgoblin, your major haunt, your tavern of choice, whether or not somebody got delegated or referred to you and you've sort of like taken the new person in as a friend and colleague. With the absence of Gulliver, it seemed very sensible to ensure that you had somebody who wielded the sorcerer's power. And so, as you sit down for a normal evening at Basil's, at the Hairy Hobgoblin, with enjoying the food of Hazra's latest killings, hunting sprees, you have the opportunity to introduce yourselves to each other. So what you need to do is say who you are for the stream, and then who you are playing, and describe them in such a way as the rest of the people will know what to expect from your character, or what do they actually know. And since I've moved everyone around, Bartleby, you are now in the position first, so it'll go Bartleby, Hengist, Captain, and Hazra. Cyrus, then Hazra. Yeah, okay, Bartleby, off you go.
I am Mr. Pickles, and I play Bartleby Fumus. He is very clearly a theist to anybody who would look at him. To somebody who has just met him, he tends to be slow to respond, a little bit cautious about things when he does talk on matters. He frequently mentions monsters of sorts, praises Amriel, the goddess of the moon. That's probably the thing he talks most about, would be the goddess and communities, how things can be improved. He's a rather average-looking person. He's not terribly exceptional, big muscles. He's just a small, regular-looking guy, except for his hands. Notice, probably very scarred. They look like they've been broken a few times. Otherwise, rather unremarkable looking. And I think I will pass the mic.
Hi guys, I'm Longshank CPG, and as per the last few years, I'm still playing Hengist. Woohoo! Wouldn't ask for another character. Hengist is just above average height. He's about 185 odd centimeters, slightly above average weight again. But the most striking factors you see, he's always in armor. And not just any old armor. He wears thick plate armor, which encases him from neck downwards, basically. And this armor is enameled in a dark green, with a rearing horse on his chest, which is steel coloured. It's not been enameled. and he wears it's like dark green, sort of not rough, but not exceptional. Practical is probably the word, and durable. It's like cloth underneath. He's got long blonde hair, close cropped blonde beard, and carries a long sword at his side. Sometimes he has his shield with him, which is a heated shield, which he normally wears on his back, ready to pull out as needed. But other than that, he's a quiet soul, but you wouldn't want to mess with him at all. Now, I've got a quick question in, Wills.
Yeah.
As Cyrus hasn't met Hengist properly yet, could I roll my passion for Famed Warrior? And I'm thinking if I get 16 or more, he might have heard one of my stories. Is that something I could do?
That's something you could do, but it won't be if you roll 16 or more. It'll be if you roll less than 16.
That's what you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yeah,
if I make the roll, basically.
So as your passion gets more, by all means, roll a percentile dice and let's see whether or not Cyrus has heard about you. No. No idea at
There's
all.
a few stories, but there we go.
Yeah. Okay, so all done, Longshanks?
Yeah.
Okay.
I won't take the limelight away from us.
We'll come across to you, Captain. Off you go. Tell us about Cyrus.
All right. I'm Captain Kangaroo. I'm today playing my brand new character I spent the last few weeks creating. I think I've pinpointed what I believe he is, who he is, and how he's going, what kind of role he's going to play in the group. His name is Cyrus Alias. He a little short in stature, but his personality is significantly larger than what he physically can portray. He likes to be the center of attention. He's confident to the point of almost arrogance. He loves trying to build the room up and push everyone to enjoy themselves as much as possible, but as long as everyone's centering on him. He has some, basic plans, but mostly his biggest issue on meeting others and playing on the team is probably his own pride.
Nice.
He has this. Does that fit perfectly? Roughly.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Okay.
Do you wish to about which order you belong to?
He's a sorcerer, and so his order, his temperament, his fiery personality, I've chosen the Order of the Phoenix. # don't sue J.K. Rowling.
Yeah. Which ever since you said that, I put it into everything now, into the podcast.
Okay.
And everything. I don't think
she's watching, but it's you never know. I'm sure you don't want to shout out on Twitter.
I'm sure she can't have rights over that.
Yeah. Okay. We had to look. Okay. But it fits perfectly for what he's trying to portray himself as. It's very military based, and he is not only a good caster, but he's also able to handle himself in the martial prowess as well. Even though he's a small guy, he's mostly a flipper than a hitter.
He's what?
But a flipper than a hitter. I don't know. He likes to fight from a little bit of far away. His main weapon is a glaive, which is he tries to pretty much prevent himself from being hit as much as possible. I think that's probably the biggest reason why he has such a huge and long weapon. Outside of any other reason that would have that.
We won't go into any psychological reason.
There might be some other psychological things, but And
I can guarantee that this is a family show, so we are.
Oh, got it. Okay, yeah. So we keep it vague.
Yeah.
But besides that, if you guys heard of him, I'll leave it up to you. But he would definitely like his name to be heard and everyone know.
And feared or respected?
Respected more. I think feared. I think he wants everyone to enjoy him, enjoy his attention and whatnot.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, pass on to Hazra, the third longest serving member, I think.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Why, thank you. I'm Menivac, and I play Hazra Khan. When you see Hazra, you'll notice that he's always wearing one of two full padded armor, which covers his face. All you can see is his eyes coming through. It's an off grey, which he finds blends perfectly into the wilderness, which he's completely happy with. The only time you really see his face is when Hazra needs to eat. He has been known to take it off for events, for special favours for his friends.
Oh!
Yes. Yeah. The other thing you notice about Hazra, he's never without a weapon. He's either using his short spear as a walking staff as he walks through the city, and he's always got his scimitar on his belt. They're the two things you'll always see with him. He's very good with them. He's quite confident when he holds his spear. He's not a tall man. He's just shy of 6 foot, but he's also he's very slim and toned. So there's no excess fat on this person, unlike Medivac.
I was going to say good role play. Good role play.
Yes. I can get through a door. And that's pretty much. He's quite quiet. He's very passionate about some things, but when he's in a city, the first thing you'll notice is he's nervous. You probably notice this now. He's sat at the table. He's looking around. He's not. He knows the hairy hobgoblin, but he's still a little bit furtive because these walls are surrounding him, and he does like to be out in the wilderness. But he does what he does for his friends, for this group. And with that, I shall pass on to In Wills.
Thank you. Sorry, Buddy Box in the chat said, "What a contrast in appearance."
Thank you.
Okay,
that's what I'm aiming for.
So just to remind you, you will all have accommodation of various descriptions. Hazra, you live outside the city walls in a small cottage, your second abode, because the first one got compromised. And I do believe that, and we did, because I've still got the roll logged, that you actually rolled your wilderness survival, to sort of see how well you can keep your new accommodation a secret. Hengist, of course, has his own abode up on the hill of the nobility hill of Lindowe. I'm just scooting you all along to the map so people can see it. Let's get rid of House Galot because they're no longer there. So this is over here. This is the nobility hill where all the noble families live, including Hengist with his faithful manservant Alfred, and where he participates in the House Galot, but also has continued to have strange rose petals delivered to his accommodation, which is becoming somewhat of a puzzle rather than anything else. Where are these actually coming from? And more importantly, who's sending them? Bartleby, of course, lives in the church. He has his own quarters within the House of Amriel, and that's where he lives. And Cyrus, you will have accommodation in your order, the Red Order, the Order of the Phoenix, that has a very small accommodation here. It's a very small building, mainly because you are associated with the battle mages, and there seems, via your order, to see no reason why they should have a big presence within a well-established walled city such as Lindowe. But there is a guild house there, an order house, where you get, due to your dedication to the order, and you get your free board and lodgings there. as I mentioned at the beginning, your time in Lindowe has been relaxing after everything that's gone on. Things in Lindowe seem to be slowing down somewhat. Lindowe itself has been attacked by monsters who came out of portals in Count Bastian's castle. You've had issues with the story of Sewer Jack, who was somebody who was murdering people within the slum areas, and you have solved issues relating to that, as well as problems in Basil's cellars, right the way up to House Galot and the attack of the assassins. Things are going well. However, you all receive a letter. And if you remember about Lindowe, the Blue Order of Sorcerers, the Order of the Kraken, are in charge of teleportation and communication within the Odes continent. And within Lindowe, they have a series of mainly children, young children, sort of like 12 upwards, who often want to try to get into the Blue Order, try to sort of like demand or demonstrate that they are capable, and they often become bluebirds. And the bluebirds are a group of people who, young children, 12s upwards, who go around carrying notes. And because there are certain people in Lindowe who can't maybe understand written notes, they are also known as confidential carriers, in the sense that they will give a message to somebody. Somebody will give a message to the bluebird, and the bluebird will go to where they are meant to be going and either recite the message back or hand over a piece of paper with the message on. And you are going about your daily business when each of you receive a letter from the bluebirds. This will either be read to you or left with you, depending whether or not you can read or write. And it's probably delivered sometime in the late afternoon, about 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And each note is the same. It's requesting your presence at the guild house of Nimbus Sweet Flame, if you remember, where there was the guarding the Guildmaster adventure, if you remember back there, when you had Boris Beck and Call there as well. And you've all been asked to attend a meeting at the guild house tomorrow morning at 10 bells, so 10 o'clock in the morning. What I'm initially interested about is, what will your characters be doing when this note comes to you about 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon one day? What would your character be doing as this happens? So yeah, anybody can go. You can just shout out. There's no need to put your hand up or anything like that. So once you've got an idea, go for it. What will your characters been doing when the bluebirds arrive?
Hazra would have been just walking back from the hairy hobgoblin after delivering his kill of the day. So
What was it?
It was a few brace of rabbits. He tried to get a deer, but it got away.
Oh dear!
Unfortunately, I know. So just the rabbits, but those that do a good stock, meaty. So yes, and he's now walking back, just towards the outskirts of the town.
Nice.
Of the city.
And does Hazra need the invitation spoken to him?
Yeah. He certainly does. Hazra will receive it, look at it, and then look at the bluebird and pass it back to him and say, "Sorry, boy, I cannot read this. Could you?
Yeah, and
could you tell me what it says?"
The boy sort of like replies to you with a well-rehearsed, if not somewhat robotic response that seems to have no emotion as in it at all. It's basically just sort of like, you are required to go to the guild house tomorrow morning at 10 bells. So just sort of like that. And then there's no detail, there's no embellishment with the the note at all. It's very factual and to the point. And he sort of like waits, and then because he's waiting for, and then he says to you, "Do you have a reply?"
No, I will be there, and Hazard will bow, and with no dispute, he'll then just keep walking on.
Yeah, and the little bluebird sort of like, you sort of like say, "I will be there," and the little blue sort of like waits patiently, and then sort of like notices that you turn around and walk off, and he sort of like goes, "That's me not having any bread tonight," and sort of like heads back into Lindowe. Yeah, who will the bluebirds be visiting next?
I imagine.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, go for it. You had something in your mind.
All right. Cyrus is just going to be walking right outside of the local tavern, trying to nurse the hangover he just created himself from the night prior. As the bluebird approaches him, he would recognize the bluebird, knowing that it's. You say, "All right, pigeon, what do you want? Is this for me?"
Yeah, it seems to be a young girl. Well, she seems to be sort of like 15, 16, probably the oldest that they actually exist in the Bluebirds before they move more to order occupations and businesses. And she seems to be rather, robust. She seems very strong and sturdy. You probably have a look at her and think that she's probably more of a fighter rather than a caster, if that makes sense. Could you just roll your perception for me?
Yeah. There we go. God. Yikes.
Yeah, do you wish to look it at all?
No.
And you sort of like call her a pigeon. And it's interesting how she reacts, because she almost like sighs as if to say, "Good grief, I've never heard that one before." And sort of like turns to you and says, "Sir, would you like me to read it or say it?"
Go ahead and say it.
Right. Obviously illiterate, she says. And she then sort of like says the message to you, and then sort of like exactly the same message as Hazra received, and then says, "Would there be a reply?" And then she pauses for a while, then says, "Sir."
Yeah. Oh, why do you want to be a courier all your life? I don't get it. Like, you're obviously a much broad lady. I don't know what you're doing thinking you want to be a courier. You should be something like me. Something that's, that's rough, that's tough, that's actually meant for something. What you're doing, you're nothing more than a pigeon. I don't understand what you're trying to be.
And she sort of like looks at you, and you notice that she doesn't seem to be fazed by this at all. And she sort of like says, "Well, I will not be a pigeon all my life. I am being initiated into the most powerfulest order of sorcerers." And remember, orders have to present some kind of identification on themselves. So it'd be very clear from something. Then Cyrus has the pin of a phoenix, or some kind of almost like recognition that people can look at. And I also think Cyrus probably wouldn't want to hide that.
No. If he's still wearing, I don't know if he's wearing. Well, if you're allowed, I'm assuming he's still wearing his armor, because I think he loves to show that he is who he is. There should be emblem of a phoenix on the emblem, and I want him to kind of like almost nonchalantly kind of just like portray that. Like, do you know who you're talking to? Of course I know.
And she sort of like says, "Of course, I will be a member of the most powerfulest order in the whole of Lindowe. The order.
They said that to everybody.
The order.
They said that to everyone that wants to be the little pigeon.
Yeah.
It's all down to what you're determined to be. And honestly, would you rather be a courier or would you rather be something that can actually make a difference?
I will
Be a
be.
true fight. Oh, sure.
This is my last year as a courier. My last year. And then I will be initiated into the order. Well, I will be able to demonstrate and be shown and she sort of like leans forward at this point, powerful spells.
Can I roll an influence check to see, or skill, to see if I can influence her to even be considerable of another order?
Yes,
Okay.
so you're trying to almost like do you want to indoctrinate her?
At least put a little bit of uncertainty into what a 16-year-old girl, it's like 16-year-old girl wanting to be a doctor versus a soldier.
Okay then, yeah.
So yeah,
roll your influence.
All
Yeah,
right.
and let me just roll my opposition. Yeah, so she's sort of like you sort of like detail the wonderful life of the Red Order, probably omitting various points unless you want to include them about
no, I want to. It's all about
dying
having
on the front line,
being a heroic hero rather than the whole bull crap of living in the barracks and eating slosh for dinner.
Yeah, and you sort of like look at her and she sort of like seems to be pondering it rather than anything. And she seems to get that faraway look in her eye for a moment, as if she's sort of like thinking of herself, projecting herself forward in a number of years about what it might be like. And then she sort of like comes back to reality and says, any reply?
Tell them I'll be there when I'm there. All right.
And she sort of like nods and turns around. You notice as she goes about her duties that just as she goes down the street, she sort of like keeps glancing back at you before she finally turns the corner. Bartleby, where are you when your note arrives?
I imagine Bartleby is just coming out of a meeting with all of the higher priests in the congregation, talking about the direction that Lindowe is moving forward. And it's one of those meetings where he's really been practicing that willpower skill of biting his tongue and leaving. So he's probably not stomping out, but very tense and lost in his thoughts.
Okay. And the bluebird, it seems to be a rather a youngish lad, probably just been allowed to start running this sort of courier system. And you notice that he seems to be nervous, if anything else, a bit worried. And you do notice that he's probably, he's either that his leggings, his trousers are either not been washed or he's fallen over several times on his way here because they're quite mucky. And you also notice as you look down that he's actually managed to do up his doublet, his jacket that they wear. That in that wrong synchronization, he started with the wrong button to the wrong hole and sort of like has got to the top and thought, all right, and probably thought a long time about this strange extra button at the top, and then probably just decided that there was something wrong with his jacket, and then that was it. And he comes up to you and he looks somewhat dirty. He doesn't look like he's taking great pride in his appearance. Could you roll a perception roll for me, please?
Absolutely. That's going to be a no.
Yeah, and he sort of like, you look him up and down, and you notice that there's there's a strange pungent smell emanating from him. You've probably, due to lack of suitable cleaning rather than anything else. And he sort of like passes you the note, and you notice that it's a bit dog-eared at the corners. Is dog-eared a universal term, or?
I know the term.
Yeah, that's what I just suddenly
page
thought.
corners.
Do we only had dog-earedness in England? So it's a bit dog-eared, and it looks like it's maybe been stuffed in his pocket for a period of time, and he sort of like passes it over to you.
I'll take it, and since I'm quite literate, I'll give it a glance.
Yeah, when you open it, the actual communication is very similar to Hazra's and Cyrus's. The interesting thing that you notice is that the script is very elegant. It's very refined. It looks like somebody has written it who wanted to somehow impress, maybe demonstrate how eloquent or how good at writing they were. You probably think that it's either some kind of nobility or some person maybe high up in the guild, in the merchant guild. It's definitely not a commoner's or slums handwriting. Or the finesse of it is quite special. There's lots of loops and flicks and curls, and you know it's quite out there. Yeah. The little lad is just waiting.
And Bartleby is just mumbling to himself, "Well, that'd be nice to visit them again." That'll work.
One of your colleagues says, "Boy, go, boy."
I'm dealing with him right now. He gave me a message. Lad, actually, do you know where a Gulliver is? I have a message actually. I'd like to send if I may.
He sort of like looks at you for a while, as if he's somehow processing the information, as if his cogs in his brain are sort of like clicking over, and then as if he's searching for the right response, or maybe the correct response, and then all of a sudden he's sort of like as if he's remembered, and he says, "I can take a message back to the order."
Yes. Well, in regards to this message you've just delivered, yes, I will attend. And
I will let them know.
And if you can let the order know, I just wanted to send a greeting and a salutation to my friend Gulliver. I haven't seen him in quite a while. I will pay, of course. I reached in my pocket and grabbed, like...
Yeah, a silver piece I do. And he sort of like...
Yeah, I'll give him a silver piece.
He's sort of like, takes the silver piece and he ponders it. He said, sorry, he said grill and what?
Greetings and salutations. Oh, yes, you're a young little one.
Does that hurt, having salutations?
Sometimes. Just say hi to him for me, and that Bartleby said hi.
Yes. And he sort of like pockets the coin into his uniform and turns around and skips off. And you notice that he gets to the doorway and he sort of like thinks, and he sort of like calls to somebody nearby who sort of like there's some kind of exchange, and then the person sort of like points off in the direction and he goes skipping off, dodging here then everywhere, as if he's dodging over the lines in the mud flaps or anything like that. Could you just, for me, roll your influence roll for me?
I barely made standard.
Yeah, but no, that's a good standard. That's
true.
That's
a high
2
standard.
points off being perfect. Yeah, and luckily for you, the boy does remember what you said to him as he goes skipping down the path. Hengist, whereabouts will you be when your message arrives?
So Hengist will be in the back courtyard of his house. He will be training. So he's got a wooden long sword out that's probably got a lead center in it for extra weight, and he's sort of like going through sort of like the various forms and then hitting a wooden target and that sort of thing. He's not in full armor. He's in sort of like just a shirt and trousers and shoes and that sort of thing.
And it's probably while you're doing this that Alfred, your manservant, sort of like comes out, because he's probably put the bluebird in the hallway, when they arrived, and he comes out to you and says, I'm sorry to interrupt your bashing, Master Hengist, but there is a girl, a bluebird girl, seeking to give you a message. I did say to give it to me, but you know what these bluebirds are like, completely and utterly a law unto themselves.
That's fine, Alfred. I'll be out there I'll be over in just a moment.
Yes, I will. I will go back. I've left one of the maids keeping an eye on him. It's never too sure where the silver might actually end up with these young scallywags. Yes, I will keep an eye on him, Master, until you arrive. We will be in the atrium.
I'll be there momentarily. And Hengist will sort of like just follow Alfred into the house, and he'll prop up the sword so like next to the door on the outside, so you just like leave it leaning against the wall as he walks into the house, and you just follow Alfred through to wherever the bluebird is.
And you notice that the bluebird is actually, it's almost as if Alfred has let them into the house and then moved them across to the door jamb, and it has never come anywhere further in the house. And Alfred is probably stood in front of him barely a meter away, with his hands behind his back and his haunty nose up in the air, and this lad is a sort of like stood there looking backwards and forwards, and he sort of like sees you coming, and he sort of like waves a note to you.
Yes. Did you have a message for me?
Would you like me to read it?
That'd be kind, thank you.
Yeah, Alfred goes, and he sort of like turns to you and says, Sir, I really do think messages are probably best read by myself, rather than a young scallywag who probably does not know his bottom from his elbow.
That's fine, Alfred. He can read it this time, and you might want to get some water. You seem to be getting a bit of a nasty cough.
No, my throat is fine, sir. I think it was just something emanating from this boy. And then sort of like the bluebird opens the note and sort of like expresses the same actual content that the other two have heard. Other three, and the other two have heard, and Bartleby, who read it himself. And then he sort of like, the bluebird sort of like folds it up and pops it away, and he says, "Any reply?"
Yes, tell them I'll be there on time tomorrow.
Right, thank you. And he's just sort of like back sideways towards the door as Alfred sort of like keeps himself parallel to him, and then he sort of like reaches behind and sort of like leaves the house, and Alfred turns to you and says, "Sorry, sir, permission to speak freely."
Of course, Alfred.
I really do think that, I know you are very much used to the most, shall we say, overly friendly approaches of adventurers, and which of course reflects your great bravery. However, I would recommend very severely, sir, that maybe I should read future notes to you. We never could be sure of the exact content and whether or not it has been communicated effectively. Of course, I will bow to your wonderful experience in this matter.
Thank you, Alfred. I'll take that under advisement.
Of course, sir. Yes, of course. And he sort of like bows and heads away. Okay, so you are actually all due to meet in the Hairy Hobgoblin tonight. Despite maybe having a suitable hangover, Cyrus, you are still quite able to... let's just delete those characters.
I was about to say, someone's sitting at our table.
Yeah, somebody has taken over your seats. Here's... oh, that's the old Hengist. You sort of like make your way... here's the... It's interesting, Captain, that we got people in the chat. Somebody called your character a drunkard bully.
Yeah.
How very dare they?
Book by cover match.
Somebody says Cyrus can take a few drinks, it would appear, which is going to be interesting. Oh, sorry, Bartleby, you're a bit big. What's happened?
That's how we should just play the game. I take up the entire map.
That's because
someone's been bloated by the sense of Amriel.
His deity has gained him large amount of strength.
yeah, that allows you to be in touching distance of everything and everybody at all times, no matter what. Here is Cyrus coming in. If I can pick him up. Oh. There you go.
Nice.
Now drop it like it's hot.
There you go. So so you're all you are actually used to sort of like meeting up on an evening basis, and basically you are all aware that you have had this invitation, and this is probably an opportunity for you all just to discuss as members of a party what you think. Is there anything that you want to plan for, but also just to get any further clarification if you need things, and I can say, yeah, that was in the message or that was not in the message, so to speak. So yeah, you can talk among yourselves at your table. Boris brings over a very fine what appears, well, you recognize it instantly. It is a rabbit stew, Hazra. And it's definitely your rabbits. And you sort of like see it there. You also notice that on the table next to you, Cyrus, you will not know this person because he has come into the adventure, the campaign, a little bit earlier before you arrived. But the others of you notice that Annalyn, if you remember, Annalyn is actually in the bar, in the tavern. He's sat over to one side. You can probably see him in the bar there. Let me just go to this view so it's nice and big. And you notice that he seems to be selling his wares. If you remember, Annalyn was the alchemist. And he seems to be sat there. He seems to have something that appears to be like a small carrying case that has a zip round and flicks up, and various people are coming to his table asking him questions, and then he seems to be siphoning off some liquor or some potion into a clear bottle, and then seems to be giving them instructions like, you know, take 3 drops of this or drop 4 drops of that into your husband's late night drink. and then your night will be plentiful and full of lust and things like that. And the old woman of 80 looks very keen and very excited about this as she limps out, almost like light-footed in what's going to be in store for him or her. So over to you. Anybody would like to say or engage with anything?
Sorry, I'm late, guys. I almost forgot. So,
Well,
which one of you did this meeting?
This is what we do. We just regularly meet here for food and drink and to discuss events. And sometimes
That's
people
right.
come and greet us, but this will be nice, though, being able to revisit the Merchants Guild. I assume it's somebody pretty far up with the way they wrote the note.
Maybe. I don't know. They just sent the pigeons out. They're what cost
Pigeon.
silver piece or something? You know, the little, what do you call them? Blue jays, bluebirds? Yeah.
Bluebirds. We once had a
We call them
friend
pigeons.
who was a bluebird.
Sounds
a long time
exciting.
ago.
Well, you spend the entire time just giving messages? Ooh.
I mean, they're part of the ability for this town to communicate rather effectively.
They send children out to give people messages.
I just presume
convenient.
often us, since we've dealt with a lot of bluebirds. That I just assume they go to other people as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Where's the waitress? I go up and go to the bar and to get a drink.
Yeah, and it's Boris is there. Boris Earless, I think his name is, to give his first. And you do notice that he's minus one ear, and he's sort of like he's one of these people who is quite round and portly, and he wears nothing on his top half ever. He has his breeches on and some kind of boot fashioning, but he always wears an apron. And the apron is sort of like goes round his neck and covers the front of his bare chest. And you're not too sure, nobody is sure how often, if at all, this apron has been washed. He does use it almost like a Batman's utility belt. It has lots of uses. For example, he can use it to mop up spillages. He can do it to wipe his hands or scrape sick off a table if need be, or to, if anybody complains about the cleanliness of a bowl or a utensil, his favourite thing is to spit on it and then rub it on his apron and give it back. And he sort of like sees you coming over, Cyrus, and he's used to you all being here, and he sort of like says, "Oh, don't be worried, sir. I will be coming over and with your drinks and some fantastic rabbit stew."
Boris, you know I'm impatient. Where's my ale?
Ale? Oh, sorry, do you want ale? He says.
Yeah, of course. I'm up, aren't I?
Well, he says, I'm terribly sorry. He says, it's just that your colleagues normally drink fine wine, but we can get you a mug of ale. And he sort of like shouts out across the tavern. He says, "Beatrix! Ale to the table!" And he sort of like points up, and this sort of like rather busty maid that looks like her waist had been tied in suddenly, and any fat or body or flesh that was there has either gone up or down. So everything's pushed up, and she sort of like walks around and sort of like comes over to your table, and the rest of you, I think, Hengist, you drink wine. I think I'm right in assuming.
Most of the
Hazra,
time.
what do you? I know Bartleby drinks water.
Sometimes it puts a little bit of wine in the water when he's feeling good.
Adventurous. What does Hazard drink? I forgot.
Pretty much anything. He doesn't like to lose complete control, but he does enjoy. He likes to drink what other people are drinking.
Okay. So you've probably got everything. You've all got your bowls, and Cyrus, your drink comes along. It's Basil actually saves the best stuff for your table. So, and just to let you know, Cyrus, just for in the future, any tavern that you come into looks like Boris's. He's actually got the franchise on every single tavern in every game ever, and it always looks like this, no matter what. I get the feeling that Cyrus has a bit of a drinks problem.
It's a bit.
Okay then. So what we will happen then is that at the end of every night, drinking night, you can make me an endurance roll. Okay. You don't need to do it yet. Then what will happen? That will dictate how fatigued you are the next day. So if you succeed, you've managed to hold your drink. And you might be a little bit rough, but it's not actually affecting you or your rolls. However, if you fail it, then your fatigue level will go up by 1. You've probably spent the night, rather than spending the night sleeping, maybe vomiting into the chamber pot, or, going off somewhere else and continuing to drink. And then whether or not that endurance will go through, that will manifest for itself quite naturally how much of an impact it's having, because it will adjust your skill levels. Okay, so before we get on to that, is there anything else that you four want to discuss before we skip onto the next morning and 10 bells? So anything that you want to say to each other? Is there anything that you want to... questions that you have, or anything that you want to prepare for?
Hazra will casually just lean across to
the rabbit's good, by the
to
way.
Hengist, and he'll say, "Is this the same place where those people were throwing darts at the lady?"
Yeah.
It's very similar.
It's exactly
It
the
could have
same
been the
place.
same. Could have been the same architect.
It's
But,
exactly the same place.
Right, wonderful. Yeah,
But one was across the other side of Odess. So
This is the one that was in Lindowe. Yeah. I think it looks. It looks.
sorry.
It looks square.
square with a little walkway that went across
Yeah.
the other house. Yeah,
Exactly. To the guild mistress's bedroom when somebody dropped something down and killed them. I think Hasbro was on the roof when that happened.
there was. Yeah. I was fighting ninjas.
Badly.
or gravity.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Anything else that you would like to chat to each other about?
Well, it's a good point that Hazard brought that up. Cyrus, I don't know your experience with the Merchant Guild, but in the past, they've been a little bit shifty. We had some problems with the truth. So it's best we all keep our wits about us here. They do owe us a favor, though, so hopefully they're on our side. But everybody, keep your mind aware. Don't trust everything.
Are they loose with their purse?
Probably the opposite.
Yeah.
All right.
Which is why we got the
I already don't like them.
and not money.
No,
Last time we did a job before them.
Yeah, so if you wanted to haggle with them over pricing and things like that, then it would either be it would be an influence roll, but it will be opposed by their own influence roll. So it could be with the weak-minded that you actually end up paying more for something and actually come around quite happy about it, thinking that you've actually, or they might say something like, the normal price would be 10 silver pieces, however, we would release you of the tax that normally accompanies that, so for you it will be 12. And you're sort of like, oh good, I've not been paying any tax for that. and that would be it. The role would be, even though you as players might be thinking, hang on a minute, if your character fails that influence roll or willpower. I notice Hazard's that smiling because he's put some experience rolls into. Okay then, so let's move time forward. So yes, Cyrus, would you like to roll your endurance roll? Let's see how well you actually coped with your alcohol last night.
Well, it's a good way to start getting that up, right? To use it more.
Well, the Church of Amriel has an endurance program. Tell you what,
which does not include drinking alcohol. Okay, then. So, do you wish to use a point of luck and reverse that to 14, which means that you would succeed?
Yes.
Okay, then. So knock off one of your luck points, and yeah. So you probably had a roughish night. But you seem to be holding yourself together. Just to let you know, I'm going to use your endurance roll score. So that is 14 today, if that makes sense. And I'm going to use that as a score, as an opposed roll for anybody who might suspect that you have been drinking. So obviously, as your endurance gets higher, you can hide it more and more. But so say, for example, I wanted to smell alcohol in your breath, then it would be a perception roll. And as long as I got higher than 14 and survived and completed my perception roll, then I would be, ew, what is that smell on your breath? Okay, so you head off and you meet outside or on the way to the guildhall, and you remember it quite well. Yes, as somebody was mentioning, it's the one when the guild mistress and master, Eliza and Boris, actually double-crossed you and used you as pawns. And it was really the time that you really got on the wrong side of the Thieves Guild. Who Sniffer, who's actually the head of the Thieves Guild in Lindowe, who did then send assassins out to you. I think they burnt your house, Hazra, if I remember.
Oh, yes, indeed.
And I think, Hengist, you had to fight off a whole barrack full of bandits. And I think you were in your church, Bartleby, as they attacked, and you had somebody there to protect you. And you're probably a bit apprehensive, a bit like what you were saying, Bartleby. You're more astute, more aware as you go to the guild house, the building, and you notice that even though you know that is in the past, you notice that each other, Hazra, Hengist and Bartleby, that you keep having a quick glance up at the rooftops, as if to say, no, nobody's there. And you get to the door, the main door, and it's guarded just as always. Not possibly the best guards around. The guild's been having some issues since several guards on duty were actually murdered, and these don't look that professional to you. Hengist, just roll your a suitable skill or a passion if you wish. Cyrus, if you have a suitable skill or passion that would allow you to roll, I want to let you check how professional they are.
Hengist used his strategy and tactics, and he got a 19 on a 52 standard. So
Hengist, you can see that these, the way that their belts are tied, that's with their sheathed swords on, the way that there's wrinkles in their chainmail, and one of their chainmails, they seem to have guild tabards over the top, and one set of chainmail looks far too big for the person. It actually comes over the end of his arms, and he spends his time sort of like pushing it up, and you don't think they have a lot of prowess at all between them, and they sort of like see you coming, and they've obviously been informed that you're on your way, and they lead you into the main entrance hall. and says that somebody will be with you. And one of the guards go over and they open one of the doors. And I would just like you all to make some perception rolls for me.
Would my lore war council be appropriate for the same thing that Longshanks?
Yeah, you can
essentially
roll it by all means.
Might as well. I'm trying to get all I can.
Yeah, so these are obviously what I would say is that these are actually not professional soldiers.
Got it.
You know, they are definitely sort of like common guards. Although Bartleby are probably chastise me for using the word common guards, because Bartleby,
I'm a friend of the guards.
You're a friend of the guard,
But they're not city guards.
yeah, they're not
That's the
city
point,
guards.
maybe.
So,
They're hired guards.
So
yeah. So we're still rolling perception?
yeah, if you all roll for me a perception roll.
Hengist made a perception roll, I think.
Ah.
Darth says,
He
you
did.
tell them, Bartleby. Okay then, what have we got? Cyrus, are you looking at all? Are you going to use a look on your roll?
Me? Oh, no,
Yeah,
sorry.
no. Hasra, you've managed it. Bartleby?
No luck for me.
No luck. And Hengist. So, just to let you know, Cyrus, in situations like this, I trust your role playing completely. So I tend to say out loud. And so the people who have actually made their perception roll, this is what you hear. And the door opens. You all hear that there seems to be a frantic argument going off inside. You all hear this. And you can hear that there seems to be bellowing and shouting. There definitely seems to be two opposed views going off, and you can hear people slamming things down on tables, and it just seems to be getting more and more and more irate as it goes on. And there seems to be two, and what the people with perception notice is that there's two different speech patterns. One set of patterns, even though that arguing is very eloquent, very, very upper class, very posh, and the other element is very sort of like rough and ready. You know, they're using contractions all the time. They're saying can't, while the other people are saying you cannot, like this, and they're dropping H's left, right, and centre. And there seems to be definitely two different groups of people. And the other thing that people hear when if you managed your perception roll is that one of the more refined voices comes up, and you hear the word, "Thank goodness for that. Sanity at last." And the guard sort of like comes back to the door and says, "Yeah, they are ready for you." And as you walk towards the room and into the room, you see a really interesting sight. And you've often believed that circular tables are there to demonstrate that everybody is equal. There is a large circular table in the middle of this room, and there seems to be 6 people sat at the table. However, they have arranged themselves to be very close together. So half of the table has probably got nobody on it, and they're all sort of like congregated together almost to reflect 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock on a clock. And one side of it, you notice that there are 3 people in guild finery. They are elegantly dressed, they are very professional, very almost like hoity-toity, very upper class. They seem to have scrolls all over the place in front of them. And on the opposite side of the table, there are 3 people that could only really be described as craftsmen or craftspeople. They seem to be wearing loose white shirts and breeches. They all seem to have strong, thick leather aprons on, And you can see by their exposed skin that they are tanned. They look like they're quite used to working outside. In front of them, there seems to be no paper or anything, and you sort of like probably believe that they can hardly read, let alone engage with. And it looks like the guild are sort of like almost like flexing their muscles in an almost like academic fashion, if that makes sense. And there's one more group of people that I just want to talk to you about before we take a quick break. Because as you come in, the circular tables in front of you with the guild and these other people on either side. But at the far end, directly opposite, right the way up against the wall, actually almost as if they're trying to shrink away into the wall, are 3 other people. They're not sat on chairs. They seem to be sat on a long bench together. And you notice from them that they seem to be some kind of military. They seem to have armor on. They seem to have swords at their waists. And you notice at one end of the bench, there are 3 what can only be described as like your short spear. Although these are a lot more, they look more ornamental rather than functional. And they're just sort of like sat there, and if anything, they're either leaning back or got their hands like this, and they really seem to be thinking, what on earth is going on here? And we are going to leave it at that point and take a quick 10-minute break. So people could go to the bathroom and refill their drinks, ready for part 2. So if you're watching on Twitch, thank you so much for coming along and supporting us tonight. I hope you are enjoying the first part, and we're going to take a quick 10-minute break, so we will be back at 47 minutes past the hour, okay, if that makes sense. Yeah, so we will be back soon, and go off and get yourself a drink. Okay, see you soon.
Yeah. Let's get bamboozled, guys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again.
We are back. We left the party before the break, coming into a room with a circular table in it, with almost like three groups of people: the rich and obviously quite refined merchants, the almost like the craftspeople. They seem to be very practical, as if they've been out and about a lot, and then a rather disjointed group that doesn't seem to be sat at the table at all. They seem to be sat out to one side. And as you come in, you quickly sort of like look around and sort of like gather the probably the feeling of what's going on here. And you made various perception rolls, so you have some idea. And one of the three people in refinery, probably quite upper class hangers. You haven't seen them before, but probably guild members. There's three of them, and the one in the middle sort of like they were all stood up. Everybody was stood up arguing, and he's also like, oh, he looks across to you. He says, oh, at last, do come in, please, do come in. And the other two guild members sit down, and the craftspeople at the other end sort of like don't, and they sort of like look at you all very puzzled, and very you notice that they seem to be whispering to each other about something, and they almost like the chief guild person says, come in, we have been expecting you, saviors, would you believe, you will be our saviors, do come in. And he looks at there's sort of like 4 chairs, well, there's probably more than 4 chairs in the gaps in between these two things. He says, do come in, take a seat.
I take a seat.
I'm interested where you sit.
Hasbro will step forward, and he'll find the chair closest to the ordinary merchants, people who he can get on with and understand.
Right, the craftspeople. Okay,
that's right, the craftspeople. He doesn't blend well with the aristocracy, as it was.
Okay, just so you're going towards the craftspeople, and there is a reason for this. Are you going to sit on the table nearest the door or on the opposite side?
Opposite side, because I always like to keep my eye on the door.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so you sort of like walk around and sit there.
You're determined, bagging my spear down as I'm walking, just to emphasise that I'm coming across.
Excellent. What about the rest of you? Where would you like to sit, and what side of the table?
Are the military men, are they sitting?
They're sat on a bench,
okay,
almost like removed from the whole debate. Roll an insight, Cyrus.
All right.
Yeah, you pick up that the people over on the bench almost like seems to be as if they have no interaction. You quickly pick up that it's probably due to the way you're used to engaging with groups of commanders, that these people on the bench seem totally almost like not involved. They could be people that they brought along. The guild member might brought them on, the craftspeople might brought them on, but they almost like look as if they're, number one, not involved, and number two, not really bothered.
All right, I'm going to pull up a chair and put it directly across the table from the merchants, essentially right in the center. So to kind of give off like I'm the head of the table, even though it's a circular table.
Okay. And do you want to sit on the side that's nearest to the door, or the opposite side? So as you go in, one side is the guild, one side is the craftspeople. Obviously, these soldier types are at the far side, near to the door, or opposite side.
Opposite side.
Okay, then. Cool. So Hazra, you're nearest the craftsman. Cyrus, you're probably bang in the middle, but both on that side of the table. So, and Bartleby and Hengist, what's going to be your plans?
You go first, Bartleby.
Bartleby is looking at Hengist.
Hengist will walk in. He was like give the whole room sort of like he would look at each of the groups in turn, including the guards or soldiers at the back of the room, and then he'll turn to the guild's person who addressed them as they came in and say thank you, and as the others take their seats, he'll take a seat probably nearer those people.
Nearest the guild,
yeah. So it's the opposite side of wherever Hazra's sitting is where he'll sit.
Yeah, okay.
He's not going to pick up his chair and sit right next to the guild people. He'll just wherever it is, he'll pull it out. And
on which
sit down.
side of the table? The side nearest to the door, or the side facing the door?
Probably nearest the door.
Okay.
Because he knows Hazra has gone for the furthest one, so Hazra will be watching his back, and then he'll be there ready for the door if there's anything that are needed at the door.
And what about Bartleby? How are you
Bartleby
going to
will
cast
definitely follow Hengist. He's sitting next to Hengist, so between Hengist and the craftsman.
Got ya, yeah. So you're probably, just to let you know, Bartleby, you're probably opposite Cyrus, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Because you sort of like extended that side of the table. Okay, the reason that I asked you this is just because of perception rolls and things that you might hear. So obviously, Cyrus and Hazra, you probably got more chance of hearing anything from the crafts people, but more importantly, the people behind you, if they say anything. Well, Hengist and Bartleby, you have more chance to listen to the guild people or anybody coming up behind you from the door. The door is shut, and the lead guild member sort of like looks around, and it looks where you all sat to go, oh, well, yes. And he seems to be somewhat confused, and he's sort of like looking around, and then he sort of like addresses you all and says, okay then, fellow acquaintances, colleagues, people who have actually proven themselves both in the town and in the field. And at that point he looks over to the three people sat on the bench and says, and he's not talking to them, he's actually talking out loud, but he almost like looks at them, which cannot be said about all people in this room. Yes, and then he looks across to the craftsman and he says, are you happy for once in this argument or this discussion that I tell these good people why we have brought them there here? And obviously the lead man says, not we. It was your idea, not ours. But you agreed to go along with it, didn't you? Well, yeah, with our hands tied behind our back. Well, whether or not they're tied behind your back, in front of your head, or quite frankly to a bedpost, I really do not care. We need to move forward on this situation, and I think it's important that our fellow colleagues here assist us in this situation. And the guard person goes, phew, like that, and almost like slumps further down. And this guy, the lead guild master, sort of like turns over to, says, are you happy with me continuing? And the guy says, ugh, go for it. Oh, colleagues, you have been so kind to the guild in the past, saving the guild and its reputation from that fearsome, really renegade of a person whose name I will not utter, and because I do not want to filthy these decorative halls with his name. But yes, you have proved yourself tenfold over, and we have called you here. When he says we, he almost like emphasizes the point, looking at the craftspeople, and we have called you here because we have a bit of a mystery, and you are well known as solving mysteries. For example, it was you alone who solved the mystery of that awful incident in the slums with that terrible story of Sewer Jack. And he looks over to you, Bartleby, and says, "May I just say, Father Bartleby, we are so impressed by the way you accept the most common folk within Lindowe. You are obviously doing a great deal for that work, and we are impressed. So thank you, Father Bartleby. That has been very good. Anyway, some of you might have remembered," and he looks around the table, "that the next town to the north of here is a place called Ubbin Falls. Are you familiar with this area?"
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Good. Now, I am not sure whether or not you are aware of the Lonesome Bridge, as it's been called. It's a bridge that crosses the Madison, which is the name of the river, halfway between here and Ubbin Falls. And it's a quite sturdy river. I think you have been there. If you remember, to the east of this location is the Great Forest, and to the west is mainly farmland, etc. However, working together, and he emphasizes the word together while he talks to the craft people, working together, we have a new venture. And this venture has come into some, shall we say, difficulties. Working together, myself as leader of the Merchant Guild and my friend over there, Alec, with a C, not an X if you're interested. Alec there as leader of the Stone Bashers, and he says masonries, craftsmen. Oh yes, sorry, slip of the tongue. Crafts Guild. We have decided to join forces to set up a new village or trade point at the Lonesome Bridge. And he sort of like pauses for a reaction, and the two guild people get, "Oh yes, very good," and do a clap. Does anybody want to react in any way?
No.
Okay.
I want to kind of clap mockingly, like.
Yeah, and he's the guild master sort of like looks over to you and smiles and sort of like curtly nods his head to you as if he's probably aware exactly what you're doing, but is not allowing it to actually influence him at all. Now, he says, obviously, this new trade centre will be in a prime position. The Lonesome Bridge is halfway between here and Ubbin Falls. It is the major crossroads across the Madison River. There is no other place to cross it between here and Ubbin Falls. So a nice trading centre would be very good. The craftspeople over the opposite side of the table have agreed to come on board with this development due to the closeness of the forest. They will be able to get abundant materials and hopefully set up some kind of trade route between the Lonesome Bridge and Lindowe. And yes, I hope you acknowledge that this is a wonderful opportunity. Of course, you will be familiar with the situation and the actual location. Now, although this might seem a perfect plan, things have sadly, and we are apportioning no blame to anyone, he says, looking at the three people sat on the bench, there has been some issues. And it is with these issues that I would like to actually employ your expertise. in order to build or to establish our trading post at the Lonesome Bridge, we have travelled twice on a small but effective caravan route on wagons. We have journeyed to this location with materials and tools to start constructing the bare essentials, purely the bare essentials for the trading post. You know, maybe an open fire for the craftspeople, and, you know, probably the essentials of probably a 2 or 3 bedroom building for ourselves, where we're 2 stories, of course, that we can start to establish trade requirements. However, it would appear that each time we have erected the bare minimum of construction, a strange thing has happened. Anybody who is there sleeps as if normal. They hear no noise during the night. They do not get awakened by strange sounds or anything like that. If anything, they arise in the morning feeling less well rested and quite groggy, I think the word is, but having slept almost like throughout the night. Unfortunately, this grogginess when we awake is accompanied by what can only be called a demolition of the site. Our work from the previous day, 2 days, has been knocked down, pulled down. No material is removed. The site is just wrecked. And despite taking some guards, and he looks over to the 3 men sat on, this has continued for 3 encounters throughout the past month. And quite frankly, we are somewhat concerned. We have a lot of money invested in this contract, and it is something that we would like to employ you all to, shall we say, guard us and the area. What do you say?
Well, can I just raise a point here? Do you have permission to build there? Did you check to see if anybody else is living in the area?
Oh yes, a good point, Master Hazra. And can I just say, I hear that your animals that you captured and served have actually been well received. Please do come to me afterwards, because I would love to make some kind of arrangement with you for maybe some delicacies or some fine animals that you hunt for the guild itself. I'm sure we can come to a nice arrangement, if that makes sense. Yes.
To be fair, I purely do for a service for a kind friend who has helped me out in the past.
Of course, Master Hazard.
And we do not hunt more than what we need.
Yes,
and otherwise there'd be nothing else left to hunt, would there?
Wise words, Master Hazard, wise words. And he turns to one of his colleagues and says, I told you, wise person he is, very wise, very knowledgeable, Mr. Hazard, you are very knowledgeable. But if you ever want to, expand or gain maybe a slightly better exchange rate, then we would be grateful to indulge in some discussion. Yes, ownership of the land. Yes, the land is not owned by anyone. The bridge has been there since the first. First of all, it was a ford, and then as the river adjusted, it's been a bridge. It actually belongs to no one, save for possibly Count himself. For those of you who can't remember or weren't here, Count Bastion is the regal, the lord of Lindowe. He's like the officer in charge. He is the king, the president, the leader of everything. Everything goes through him. And we have discussed this with Count Bastian, and he is totally aware and supports the actual venture.
And I take it that you have sent scouts into the forest to make sure there's no village or settlement in the forest?
Well, he sort of like looks around and sort of like looks at the person on either side of him and says, well, we assume that our hired guards over there would be the people to do that. As far as I'm aware, there is rumour of a outlaw who lives in the forest. I believe they live in the trees, would you believe? But they have no legal judgment or custody over the land. It belongs to the Count.
All right. Let's get to the brass tacks here. Obviously, we are not engineers. Everyone here are known to solve problems for the entire town. So it comes down to this. What are you going to pay for us to risk our lives to do your bidding?
Oh, I see. You are more to do with the money rather than the honour and the goodwill. And he sort of like turns to Bartleby and Hengist. Now, I know some of you are more focused on, the poor, Master Bartleby. But yes, in this world there are people who are more concentrated, more focused on the monetary value. And I think that has been acceptable.
As a merchant, don't you believe that you also believe in the same thing?
I do not see your point.
We both know that money talks. Everything else is just,
we are aware of
logistics.
This. And you are more than welcome to leave if that's what you consider. We have.
I'm here to make money,
here.
just like you.
So I am here to ask for your services. Your services, which I know some of you have demonstrated very well in the past. Very well in the past. And he looks at Bartleby and Hengist once more. So there are various issues to discuss. The first of all is my colleagues and I, and he signals to the craftspeople on the table, do not want to influence you at all. We have ways that we think would be the best to approach these, but these are opposed by our good learned gentlemen on the opposite side of the table, and they, quite sadly, think the same of us. You've been brought here as, hopefully, non-biased people, not on one side or the other. So how you approach this, we are willing to accommodate this. Secondly, there's three things I will discuss. Secondly, there is the idea of payment, and it is up to you yourselves as individuals, and of course your respective orders, where this money actually goes to, whether or not it goes to your orders themselves or to your own pockets. For us, that is not a problem at all. Although I hope you understand that we will be making the payment aware, everybody aware of the payment. We are prepared to actually start off paying you somewhat of, shall we say, 100 silver pieces per day you are at Ubbin Falls. At the Lonesome Bridge, until the problem is sorted. Whether or not this takes a day, 2 days, or a week, we have agreed on that. The third option, if you choose to accept it, is to forego any monetary value. But we will agree to build accommodation, or it looks at Bartleby, a church or a shrine, or even a small cottage for you in the new development. we have great things, and we hope to even make a dedicated room in the new Guildhall, suitably called name to represent your infamous and wonderful achievements. Maybe we could call it the Awesome Four Room, if you understand what I'm meaning. Yes. So, yes. And he sort of like sits down and says, oh, yes, questions.
What were the differing methods that you guys have discussed here that you differ on?
Well, we actually employed them, and he points over to the three guards, and their... What do you call a group of mercenaries like them? And one of the other guild people, so like says, I think it might be a gaggle like this. So we employed them, a gaggle of mercenaries, a group of people who were to protect us. And would you believe they were found in the morning, shall we say, in deep slumber? Whether or not that was because of over drinking or some other reason, we are not too sure. Obviously, we do not possess the skills to carry out, shall we say, interrogation of them.
In the order, we call them ditch diggers.
You call them what, sorry?
Ditch diggers.
Well, to be honest with you, Mr. Cyrus, I rather would query whether or not they would even be able to do that job effectively.
I look back at the mercenaries behind me and do a little wink, a little snide wink.
Yeah, there's a sort of like they sort of like acknowledge it, but they seem to be sort of like looking around as if, and the guild master sort of like leans forward. They are being somewhat awkward because we have hired them in advance for a whole month. They already have our money, and we can dismiss them if you wish. However, we would need to be compensated for that. Otherwise, we are stuck with them.
All right. So, what do you three say? You want to do this or not?
Before I respond, I have a question. Would I be able to roll my lore monsters or lore history with the knowledge they've given of what's happening? If I might have a guess as to what kind of dangers there might be?
Roll away.
I feel like Bartleby is leaning towards his monsters knowledge here.
Okay. Yeah, you remember that in your first journey up to you being formed, you were attacked by water goblins at that bridge. That you remember that very clearly. Apart from that, there was no other indication of any monsters lurking around there. But you do remember that you got attacked. There might be more things that you can actually find out, Bartleby, but this is just like a quick snapshot of what you remember in the past. Yeah. So don't be afraid to redo the roll sometime later on if you wish. Yeah, go for it.
Would Bartleby be inclined to think that goblins are that quiet and sneaky, or would that be something he'd need to research?
You've experienced water goblins. You can actually use what you know. I mean, I think they crawled over the edges of your boat and attacked you.
They weren't that sneaky.
They weren't that sneaky, but
yeah.
You know, I only remember that Ben was using Bash with his two-handed sword.
Yes, and just throwing them all over the place.
It knocked them back 1 meter, which meant that they flew off the edge of the end of the boat, which was interesting. Yeah, so you don't think they were sneaky. I think they had like a shaman with them as well, and you remember there was some mumbo jumbo going on, but definitely not sneaky. Definitely not sneaky.
In which case, Bartleby will just glance to Hazard and Hengist, not respond yet.
Cyrus and Hengist, could you roll your... I think you've both got some kind of lore roll about strategy or tactics or communication or something like that. I want to give you some information, almost like battle-like, if that makes sense, about the situation.
You just got a 26 on a 52 standard.
Right, okay then. So, Hengist, you sort of like... You're pondering this whole situation, and you really... There's something missing. That what the guild master was saying doesn't actually seem to fit together. And the more you think of it with your almost like your analytical mind, your strategy, your tactics, you're sort of like thinking, this doesn't... If something had happened, these buildings were virtually demolished, that would take a huge... That would be noisy.
Yeah.
You know, so... Really and truly, nobody would sleep through that. Nobody. You know, if they were asleep and that kind of noise happened, they would wake up. No doubt about it at all. The other thing that you're really puzzled about, Hengist, is why demolish the buildings? It seems almost like illogical. If you wanted to stop people, for example, killing the people would have probably stopped it more effectively. You know, rather than just knocking down the buildings twice. And that's what's happened. And you sort of like your tactical brain is thinking, hang on a minute, there's something else here that we don't know. You know, because these pieces are not fitting together correctly. Anybody else wish to say or do anything?
I think I gave my 2 cents.
Cool. Hazra, anything that you would like to?
Hazra has no interest in having his name put on a building or a wall. He knows that if he's paid, that money will go to better use for other people.
Yeah. That fits with your character.
Where he normally puts his money. Yeah. He's still very concerned about the same point of... Well, anyway, yeah. No, he would take the payments option rather than the cheer up Kickstarter option.
Yeah. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so the guild master then sort of like says to you all, he says, we have allocated, we are sure that you will be wanting to do your own research, and we do not want to influence you in any way at all. We are not here to blame one group over another, although I hope you understand that we trust your judgment over this. And naturally, if we are unbelievably found to be the aggressors in this situation, then we will accommodate and accept that and make suitable compensation. As I hope any group who is found to be somewhat lacking in this meeting and this contract should be dealt with appropriately. Now, because of this, we have put a room aside for you in the guildhall. There will be no guild members in the guildhall. We are here for the next couple of hours, and you can interview us either individually or as a group. We do not want to influence you, but we understand that this is probably a better situation, and my learned friends across the table have agreed with that. So feel free to interview us, or of course you may want to do your own research about the situation. And can I just make it totally clear that we are leaving this all up to you? You know, we do not want to influence you. you have been fantastic at solving problems like this before, and we trust you to do this again. Would you like to interview us or not?
Perhaps could you give us a moment as a group to privately discuss this?
Yes, and he sort of like he looks down on the table, and you notice there's a little handbell, and he sort of like picks up and goes like this, and a butler, not one of the guards from outside, a butler appears and he says, "Could you escort our friends to the agreed location, the room that we've set aside?" And he sort of like bows, and he takes you out, and he takes you into a quite modest square room. It has a bench, chairs, small tables, however you wish to arrange them. But most impressively, you notice that there's a long table that has been, shall we say, generously covered with food, delicacies, wine, mead, water. It's just sort of like full of it. Does that make sense? As if to say, we are not bribing you at all. Here's, eat as much as you wish at this buffet. You know, and the butler says, we have provided a small amount of food and liquid. If you are parched or hungry, please help yourself. And if there's anything that you wish to be replenished, then you only need to let us know. And he sort of like, he does the classic walking away from the Queen. So he sort of like takes several steps backwards facing you, and then nods his head and backs out of the door and shuts the door.
Before anybody says anything, Hazard will raise his hand up into the air and he'll put it to his lips, and then he's going to slowly walk to the door, and he wants to just open the door and see if the butler's still there listening.
Okay, so why don't you use your stealth roll for me rather than anything else?
Well, there we go. Oh, I'd like you to point of no, because his inside is not his stealth is mainly outside. He's probably caught himself in a splinter on the wooden floor.
Yeah, I think that you quietly open the door and you see somebody directly opposite you. looking straight back. No, you actually open the door a crack. You fail your stealthiness because you tend to sort of like open it too quick and it bangs your head or something. But the outside area outside the room is actually empty. There's nobody out there at all. By the way, Hazra, the rest of the group do not know how badly they all think that you did it really well.
All right.
Thank you. It's all clear.
All right. So there's a reason they haven't hired a whole bunch of engineers to figure out this issue. They're not. I believe they're not telling us something. I think they know something that otherwise they want to hire us. You guys worked with them in the past. What do you guys think?
They were different people in the past, and we got them exiled.
These people, some of them may be genuine, but from their past experience, they're very silver-tongued and they like to twist their words. But my personal thing is we need to speak to the guards. Because I can understand guards falling asleep on the second night perhaps, but on the first night in a new place, they'll be wide awake and watching because they don't know what's there.
Maybe they're just crappy guards. Who knows? But I think we should bring them with us just in case. They're still hired mercenaries, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
So bring them with us. Worst case scenario, if it's become an issue, at least they're cannon fodder, right?
Well, let's bring them in, talk to them in this room and see if we can see away from the silver-tongued ones, and then maybe we can find out something they're too ashamed to tell them.
Okay, so who would you like to interview is there anything you would like to do apart from the interviewing? Any other legwork that you would like to do? And if you are interviewing people, who is interviewing whom? Are you all doing it together? That's generally what I need.
I think we should be interviewing all of them, perhaps the guards and then some craftspeople, since I feel we've only really interviewed the ones who brought us here.
The guild obviously had the merchant guild. Actually, you would quite happily say control that situation that you've just been in.
Yeah. But the guards might be a nice start.
Yes.
I think it might be helpful to have us all here.
Okay.
Who will who will do the talking?
Exactly what I was going to ask, Hazza.
I would personally say with Hengist's past experience with the city guards, he'd be the one to talk to them.
Captain, if you weren't aware, Hengist joined the
he's got
guard.
to take headphones off.
If you weren't aware, Captain, Hengist joined the city guards, and then sort of like the 2 days afterwards left the city.
We were going on a long, dangerous mission. Hengist didn't think he was going to come back.
And so Hengist has been in the past quite almost like laughing stock of the city guards. And then to make matters worse, Bartleby is a friend of the guards. So they make fun of Hengist, but then are really kind to Bartleby. So yeah, sorry, Hazard, what you say? You think Hengist should...
Hengist should lead the questioning. And what I was thinking, while you're questioning, I will stand behind them, just walking backwards and forwards while you ask them questions.
Is this like good cop, bad cop?
Yes.
Interrogation has to.
Okay then.
We can always stick them with spears. But
All right. So should I talk to the guards then? I don't want to. I don't Hengist to muddle things up a bit for us.
So there will be 3 guards. There's 3 guards that you can actually talk to. You can either just talk to them one after another, or you can split up if you wish and talk to them separately in partners. It's completely up to you.
maybe quick fire at all 3 of them and see who.
Actually, there might be
first.
There might be a merit to doing them one narrative at a time.
All right. All right. How about this? One of us, I'll talk to the leader of the 3. You talk to one, and one of you talk to the other, and then we'll compare notes. All right.
Sounds fair.
Yeah.
So honestly, I don't think outside of maybe the craftsman, I don't think anyone else really knows what's going on, and the guards probably understand a little bit, or they're the ones that are at least trying to hide what went wrong. Is that correct?
So where are you interviewing the guards? Because you've got this room.
Mm-hmm.
Is somebody taking another guard somewhere else, and if so, whereabouts? Or are you just doing it all in this room? Are you doing it at separate ends of the room, or are you just rotating around as it happens?
Let's separate them so that they don't look at each other and stuff like that, and seeing if trying to get like some visual, like, oh, should I wink? Should I say this? Let's just separate them. Like, I'll probably bring the guard, the leader of the guard, the mercenaries, to like the hallway or something.
Okay.
Or
I mean, you could, Cyrus, if you wish, ask for another room.
Yeah. If there's like a meeting or another, just a small room, doesn't have to be anything specific. Even the back kitchen or something, doesn't matter.
Yeah. Okay then. So you can go up to the guild master and sort of like ask him, if you can have another room, and he said, "Just roll your insight roll for me, Cyrus." Do you wish to look it?
Yeah.
Okay then. So knock on your point to look. Okay then. So the guildmaster is very friendly and very agreeable. He sort of like cascades a whole load of pleasantries to you, but you, with your 19, you see rather through this, and you get this feeling that, I mean, on the face, everything he says is completely and utterly positive, friendly, nice. You know, he's not saying anything detrimental, but you get this distinct feeling that he's really enjoyed the fact that you've had to come to him and ask for something, and he's all like saying, "Oh, of course, Mr. Cyrus says we'll get a room for you straight away." And it's almost as if you were playing a power game. He suddenly thinks he's one up. Okay, then. So Cyrus is going to one room with one of the guards. Is that right?
Yeah, if I'm assuming there's of the three, there's probably like a leader.
Yeah, with the one probably in the middle, and you got two other guards. Is somebody else questioning them? I don't want to give Hazra any ideas. You know, once he's got his spear out.
Leave your thumbscrews at home.
Hazra has no intention of talking to the guards. He wants to just watch them while, so if Bartleby or if Cyrus has a guard, he wants to just watch them and see the body language and see,
Sorry, Electric Massage just said, I thought Medivac was playing the flute for a minute. What did you have? Did you have some?
It's my fake thing. Yeah.
I thought it was a violin. I was getting flashbacks. Okay, so this is how we're going to play the interrogation. The questioning. Okay, what I would like you to do is tell me the information you're trying to get, and then you are going to roll your influence roll, and that will determine the information you receive. I have to explain at this point that a failed endurance roll does not necessarily mean you are getting incorrect answers. What the failed endurance roll would mean is that you're not getting all the answers. Does that make sense to people? Yeah, so you will even if you fail, you will still get answers. It's just that you won't get all the possible answers that are available for grabs.
You mean influence, not endurance, don't you?
Yes, sorry, influence. Yeah. You might be endurance, but if you're doing interrogation. Okay then, so let's start. Bartleby, did you say you were?
Yes, Bartleby wanted to be in the room.
Okay, so who's doing the talking between you and
will probably
Hengist?
do one of the talking to one of the guards. Cyrus is doing talking to the leader of the guards.
So Hengist and Bartleby, do you want to join your influence rolls together?
If you don't mind, Hengist, if I could use this room, and you might be in the hall, perhaps.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay then, so what we'll do with this, Hengist, you can wait outside and Bartleby can interview the guard, and then we can swap over, and Cyrus can do the bard in the other room, and Hazra, you can be the pacing backwards and forwards person behind them. Are you threatening in any way, Hazra? I just need to know whether or not we need to use a roll to augment the influence roll. That's the
he knows his
Your pacing.
In a way, he wants his presence to be felt. He's got his spear in his hand, and he'll be walking.
Okay. Are you listening into the conversation as well?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Okay then. So, Bartleby, let's start with you.
Wait, really quick. If Hengist isn't interviewing somebody in the hall, there's no reason to kick him out of the room.
No, Hengist will be in the room, and then he will go and get after that person.
Okay,
He'll take
cool.
that guard back and
Got
collect
ya.
the remaining one and bring him into the room.
Okay, then. So,
Okay.
Hengist and Bartleby, one of you can augment the other role. So, I suggest the person with the highest influence rolls and augments it with the other one. I have a funny
51.
feeling.
Yeah,
I thought that might
give
be.
you some roll.
Yeah.
Let's use your fancy augment button. Augment. Cool. Make sure I'm using the right one. Yep.
You get a
nice.
staggering 8%.
It helps. It's the spirit that
Yeah.
helps me here.
Okay, so
Influential person.
tell me what sort of like general questions you want to ask.
Bartleby just wants to get the story, whatever story this guy is willing to tell, so that he can match up to any other stories. It wants to know how things went, what happened, start to finish.
Okay.
And anything you noticed, no matter how strange.
Yeah.
Okay then. Roll away.
Could I use the point of luck?
I was going to say that whenever you see a 0, you know it's luck.
Ooh, yeah, that's some good luck.
That won't be a critical, however.
No.
So, okay then. So, you sort of like ask the guard generally about what's happened. And I'm going to, rather than role-playing it out, I'm going to give you some points of information that you get. Okay. The first important piece of information... Hazra, what I'm going to do with you, by the way, is I'm going to tell you the points, and then Hazra, Hengist, and Bartleby, you can make an insight roll to see whether or not all the points were true or not. Okay, then. So these are the following points that you get. First things first is that the guards have been called into the situation. The first time this happened, the guards were not there. The mercenary company was not there, if that makes sense. So it happened the first time, and then they were called in. Okay. The second thing that you gain from it is that their payment is not that great. They pick this up after they hear the guildmaster talking about how much you are getting paid. And it comes to it, they sort of like grumble about that and make sarcastic comments as that we're obviously not as good as you because we don't get the pay. The third thing that you get was that they remember going on guard. They remember situating at their guard posts, but they don't remember anything. Throughout that, they seem to fall to sleep or passed unconscious or something. They remember at the guard post sitting down once they made their rounds or something, and they remember sitting down. Then after that, they have no recollection until a noise or something wakes them the following morning, and the situation was then, out of control. It wasn't. Everything had been ransacked or broken, etc., etc. They claim that they heard nothing from beginning to end. They actually blame the guild master and his cronies. They're very detrimental to them, talking about how dare they think that they have the right to do this and suddenly be in charge and blame them. They do not see it as a collaboration or working together. They see it as totally us and them. They are hired for the whole month, so legally they are still obliged unless the guild masters sack them. But there is a problem there because they asked for the money up front and they spent it on women and alcohol, basically, and that's it. so yeah. Right. Let's have some insight rolls. So you can all make separate ones. So
I'm making an insight roll too, right?
we will do once we interview your guard.
Okay.
Yeah. Hengist, what are you on?
Hengist is on steroids.
He's on something.
Amazing.
Right. Okay then. So,
He had this tea this morning.
yeah. Well, Bartleby and Hengist both get single digits. Very close.
I'm looking at the backs of his head.
Yeah. Just to let you know, both of you, Hengist and Bartleby, and Hazra, you think he's telling the truth. The information that he's given to you, you believe to be the truth. He doesn't seem to be lying about that at all. So, Cyrus, what sort of questions do you want to ask the guard that you have? The same sort of thing or different?
At the beginning, I'm going to spend like the first 10 to 20 minutes just kind of just talking offhand, talking about like past experiences I've had and whatnot, stuff like that. Just kind of gain the
trying to put him at ease,
sort of familiarity, in good cop, that kind of situation.
And then you go to mind probe. No.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm also going to bring up, the fact that of how he's being treated by the guild master and whatnot, trying to gain that little sense of familiarity and everything. First, I'm going to ask him, what does he think is going on? First,
yeah.
What's his interpretation? Does he think that all the information's already been said by the guildmaster, or does he think they're hiding something too?
Okay. And when you were talking about befriending him and telling him things, are you telling him real things, or are you being deceitful to him? You mentioned about siding with him.
Yeah, so I'm being deceitful about siding with him, but I'm probably I'm probably overstating the greatness of my past battles or whatnot.
The reason I'm asking you is whether or not we need to roll a deceit roll, because deceit is a skill, and basically that is when you're not telling the truth, or you're avoiding the truth and you want to convince and befriend the person. Do you see what I mean? So
I will. Yeah, let's try it out. Let's do it.
Go for it.
I want to try to convince. It's kind of like a salesman trying to.
So just to let you know. Okay, then, if you are successful in deceiving him, we'll make your influence roll one difficulty easier.
Yeah, there we go.
Deceit away. We very rarely use deceit. Ooh, and this is why. Okay, roll your influence roll. Let's see what you get.
There was an attempt.
There was an attempt. That's the important bit. Okay then, and just while we're here, just roll your insight roll as well, so we've got them all done and dusted, and then I can give you some information. Oh, yes. Okay, then. We'll just say that you're warming up at the moment. Okay. Then. So, first things first is the guard that you're talking to, the lead guard, blames the guild for everything. Absolutely everything. Everything is their fault from the day they decided to hire them, the day they chose to set off, the guild, the routine for guarding things, everything, anything you ask it's the guild master's fault. It's the guild's fault. He never, ever, ever says anything negative about the craftspeople. Not one little bit, ever. It's all the guild. Apart from that, you get the very much the same sort of information that I said to Bartleby and Hengist. So this idea that, number one, and these are the important synopsis, number one, this happened the first time when the guard was not there, and the guard uses this to sort of say to you, how can it possibly be us? We were not there the first time. it's interesting because you probably get together and consult later on, but both of them, it's almost like, say, they were at the guard posts, and then they don't remember anything until the next morning. They don't remember any noise or anything, so they mentioned that. They also do mention that they're hired for the month, but they've used up the money in true mercenary style. So that's out there. You do think he's telling the truth from beginning to end. You almost get this feeling. I tell you what it feels like. When you're organizing discussions from that command structure, when you're providing counsel at commanders meetings, when you're in the sort of like as a battle mage in the room, it's almost as if these are the privates, the foot soldiers, the infantry that always get the blame for everything. It's as if it's all like cascades down and down and down and down, and then it's just down to them at the end. Okay.
I'm just going to ask one more thing to him, and feel free to use my roles as if it's accurate or not. Did anything seem off the night that you misremember? Did anything seem like, I remember seeing a mist, or I remember anything that seemed weird?
Interesting question. The response that you get is all to do with the guild masters being suspicious, eyeing things up, going for walks but not coming back. And he sort of like leans forward at one point and said, I would be very careful about them if I was you. I think they're keeping something up their sleeve. I think they're probably using you to sort of like, allow them to get on with this project. Let's just say I don't think it's equal footing in this agreement.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, and this guard seems quite chirpy and friendly with you, and he sort of like says goodbye, mate, at the end. Is there any other people that you would like to interview, or anything else you would like to do before I tell you the next part?
Yes, the craftspeople.
Yes.
Bartleby wanted to talk to them and get their perspective.
Okay, so
Are we going to separate with them as well, or are we just going to talk to them together?
Hazra thinks.
I thought your microphone was going off and on there.
Yeah. So Hazra thinks with the craftspeople, we should do them all together in a more friendlier atmosphere, because there seem to be. He's noticed that these people have been ostracized, which is a big word for Hazra.
It is very big. Okay.
So I presume that we get together and share our information from our interviews, and then proceed to get the craftspeople going.
Yeah.
Okay then. So tell me, what sort of like basic information do you want from the craftspeople?
Bartleby wants to know why they don't want us here, but why they're angry or frustrated.
Okay. Any other thing? Anything else?
When they how far they went into the forest to get the items, and if they saw anyone else or anything in the forest. When I say anything, I don't mean birds.
Yes, I don't.
That sort of thing. I mean like old
I
things.
saw a blade of grass and a leaf fall from a tree.
A shrubbery!
No shrubberies, but
I saw a brown mouse. No,
maybe.
I'm not going there.
But anything as in like the goblins, Angus is aware of the stuff he's seen on that road in the past. He's seen wolves, he's seen goblins, he's seen river goblins, and he saw that ghost talking to the goblin.
Yes.
All those
any rumours about the place as well.
And then there was the bandits that he didn't see, the Robin Hood style bandits that he didn't see, but Gulliver and Co told him about.
Were you not on that adventure?
He wasn't.
Wow.
He was on the first half of that adventure, but then he had to go back. He went back with the traders to.
Oh
look after them.
yes. So you weren't around when
He didn't have the whole...
Dominic cracked open somebody's head.
He wasn't around for that. He wasn't around for the flying monkeys attacking the tree house.
That was an epic...
He heard all about it from Gulliver, so he is skeptical
you.
about how much of it happened, like flying monkeys.
Okay, then. So, anything else you want to ask?
I want to reinforce that we don't believe or have the impression that, their engineering problem or whatnot could have led to a collapse. But I want to ask if they, not only that, but do they think that the guild masters are hiding something or leaving some information out?
Okay, so all of you make influence rolls if you're talking, and then I can give you some information.
Cool.
Come on, Cyrus. It's down to you here. Oh, yeah!
What's the time? Angus is going to use a word.
Oh, look at that! Is it by magic?
I did check the time first.
And just as the craftsman comes in, can we roll some initiative? No. Okay then. So this is what you find out about information from the craftspeople. The first thing is that they're quite they warm to you. In the beginning, they thought that you were going to be on the guild side. They thought because you had been hired in, you were going to be just questioning them and not questioning any others, and trying to put the blame all on onto them. They actually comment that they took all the information, all the lumber from Lindowe. They actually carted it up there via wagon. And so all that, they didn't need to go into the forest at all. But in the future, they think it'll be a wonderful trading point in order to start to do almost like harvest the forest. And that would be a lot. They see it as a good business venture. They do see that this would be good. They also like the idea that it's halfway between Lindowe and Ubbin Falls, which means it'll be a really nice trade route. They really don't understand what happened both nights, and they do reveal to you that it was two different sets of people. So there was some guards, some craftspeople that went up the first time, and that it happened, and then it was a different group of craftspeople that went up the second time. And the three people that you're talking to, they haven't been. They've just heard back, but they will be the next three to venture up there. One of the craftspeople is actually the leader of the guild. The guy who was in the middle, he's actually the guild leader. And they quite openly say that the only reason he's going is because he found out that the leader of the guild, the Merchants Guild, was going as well the next time. Is there anything I've missed out that you want to ask about? Okay,
we didn't say at the beginning, but do they have a theory of what's
yes.
building
So
together?
they blame the guild,
okay.
The guild merchant. Okay. They said that they're doing something. Their favourite point of this is that they think that they're causing this, so it's all to do with their work, and because their work is falling to bits or being damaged, etc., then they're going to try to do bad influence on the craftspeople, so they won't be able to employ them, and maybe bring in their own people to fulfill the job. And that's one of the reasons why the craftsperson, the lead craftsperson, is going next time, if that makes sense, because this is really important to them. And he does mention at the end how pleased they are that you are looking at all avenues, and they do ask you whether or not you feel that are you still suspicious of the guild of merchants? Do you still think it could be them? And they think it is them, but they don't want to influence you to think it's them. They seem to be more down to earth than that. They don't want you to assume that it couldn't be them. Does that make sense? They're looking for more
genuinely wanted to find the answer.
Yes. And they're not. They blame the guild merchants, but they're saying to you, they say, we don't want to influence you. You need to make your own decision, as long as you're looking at all parties. And they say, we have nothing to hide here at all, nothing to hide. So they're really saying exactly what you said, Hazard. They don't want to. They blame the merchants, but they don't want you to. They want you to approach it openly.
With an open mind. Yeah.
Okay, so just to let you know, because it's nearly 10 o'clock, there will be an opportunity if anybody wants to talk to contacts or guilds at the beginning of the next session. We'll quickly do that. The caravans, the wagons, will leave in 2 days' time, and there will be 3 wagons, all loaded up with provisions and resources. You will it'll take you 2 days to actually get to the Lonesome Bridge. You can bring a wagon if you wish, or you can walk or ride if you wish. You all have ride skills, remember?
We have a wagon and a bull.
Was that in
Brutus?
Yeah.
Was that in
Brutus,
Odes? Was that in Lindowe, or was that the other place?
That was Lindowe. That was the last
That
time
was
we went
here,
up
yeah.
there.
Oh, I
With
forgot
the little girl with the snotty nose, and we went up and
what was her
house.
name? What was the snotty nose girl's called?
Tiffin.
Tiffin.
Yeah.
Sniffin, and I can't
Tiffin.
remember her name.
Tiffin the snorer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, Captain, if you didn't see that adventure, they were all camping out and setting guards out, and I suddenly thought, maybe one of these NPCs is a snorer. So anybody with a high perception roll, if they succeeded in their perception roll, the snoring kept them awake.
That was a nightmare.
Yes, you do.
You got that perception
So that's
roll,
probably at your cottage, Hasra.
It will be, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you have Brutus, the oxen, and a wagon that you can actually journey up there. Back. Well done, I totally forgotten about that. So, do you want to know, just out of interest, on World Anvil, there is a section that you can write in what the party has together. And that's kept within the campaign at all times. So I'm going to add
brilliant.
that. You can add that as well. You can add anything to the thing. So brilliant. So if you wish to do any other, and I'm thinking maybe not interviewing, maybe asking people at your contacts, or going to the Brotherhood or the church, or Cyrus, your all orders have a library, although yours won't be fantastically expansive and probably focuses more on battles, but you do have a library that you can go to. Hengist, you can ask around the Nobility Hill if you wish. And then once we've done that in the next adventure, we will set off. So what you need to do by next Saturday, please, is make sure that one of you or all of you have done any equipment that you wish to take. The equipment can be put onto the wagon, so it's not going to affect your encumbrance. But if you wish to take anything, then you need to jot it down and make sure. So what I'll say is either, pop it into the Discord chat for your group, so you get a group list, and then so I can just see it, and then I know what's in the wagon. Okay, if anything possibly happens to the wagon, and I'm not saying that it will.
No. That cost me money.
Or if Brutus gets sniped. Oh,
What? That's very aggressive.
Yeah, I remember now. Somebody hit him with an apple.
It was the monkeys in the trees, the orangutans, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they chucked the apple, missed the person, but hit Brutus,
and
who
he
then
went.
started to go forward. Oh, yes, because Tiffin fell off the wagon.
Yeah.
He did.
And
I had to go save her.
Bartleby stayed on it, you know.
I jumped off.
Yes,
I
you
got
did.
my athletics check. I didn't fall.
You did actually,
Yeah,
you
it did. You flip-flapped over. You did a forward-back somersault. Excellent. So, Port Oxon, yes, Bunny Box, it was. So, anyway, so we will leave it there for this week, and we will come back next week when we start our journey to the Lonesome Bridge, halfway between Lindowe and Ubbin Falls. And we will see what the party can find out before they go, what happens on their journey, and whether or not they can unravel the mystery that's happening at the Lonesome Bridge. And we will leave it there for this week. Does anybody have any announcements or anything that they would like to say before we wind up the session?
Dun, dun, dun. No, I do not.
None from me.
No? Okay,
I'm just hoping that next week it's not like the Oregon Trail video game in which we all get dysentery on the way to this.
I played that recently.
I always think of Red Dead Redemption when you're on the wagon. That's what I'm thinking about. Brilliant. So next week we'll go from there. I will be streaming again tomorrow at 2:00 to try to finish Greymore with some more ESO. So if you're around, do come along for that. And then on the evening, I will be playing Overwatch for a couple of hours. And then I've got an interview with Matt Eager, who wrote Brock, the module that you played last time. And
Sorry, I didn't realise that was Matt E on Discord.
Yeah. Who did? So he and I did a review of it in this month's Mythras Matters podcast, which has just reached 5,000 downloads now.
I saw that,
which is
well
absolutely epic. So if you want to go and have a look, just search for Mythras Matters. So we'll be back next Saturday at 7:00 to do the next part. Our adventures normally take four sessions normally. So we'll be back next week. Until then, please remember to look after yourself, stay healthy, and remember to I forgot what I was going to say. I was going to say something really philosophical about the game, but it's gone. So just stay safe, and we will see you next week. Until then, we'll catch you all later and say goodbye. Say goodbye, people.
Bye.
See you later, people. Bye. This video is sponsored by the Design Mechanism, the makers of Mythras. Mythras is a registered trademark of the Design Mechanism Inc., used with permission. All rights reserved.